a clarification, some housekeeping, and this week's episode of She-Hulk. All that and more on today's episode of the Geek Watch Podcast.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 165 of the Geek Watch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
And so I wanted to, before we really get started today, I did want to talk about something that we discussed last week, because, of course, we were talking about the Little Mermaid and all the drama that's still going on online about all of that. And I didn't get called out on this online, but while I was editing, I felt like I needed to clarify something that I said to make it clear. Now, I don't believe that every single person who has an issue with the casting of the Little Mermaid is racist. I think the vast majority of them are, but there are some people who aren't. For example, there are some people of color who don't like the fact that the Little Mermaid is a black woman because they feel as if you're basically giving a white part to a black actor instead of developing black-led movies and that sort of thing. For example, The Woman King, that movie that's just come out with Viola Davis. I don't know if you've seen any of the trailers for this. Yeah, Viola Davis looks kick-ass in this movie. If that Viola Davis was in Suicide Squad and was playing Amanda Waller, she wouldn't be blowing bombs in their neck. She'd be twisting their heads off with her bare hands and throwing them in the trash. But obviously, people should be able to tell their stories. And I can understand where somebody might get the idea that just because you give a traditionally white role to a black actor, that's not good enough. And I completely understand that. My view on it and why I don't have, obviously, a problem with a black actor playing the Little Mermaid is because race isn't important to that role. Now, again, like they've been saying online, well, how would you feel about a white actor playing Black Panther? You're getting those kind of comments online, and obviously there are roles out there where the race of the character plays into it. I think that Denzel Washington is a great actor. I think Ed Norton is a great actor. But I don't think Ed Norton should be playing Malcolm X, and I certainly don't believe you're going to have Denzel Washington playing a skinhead in American History X. It doesn't make any sense at all. Where you have a character where race isn't part of what that character is, then get the best actor.
I look at it as there are iconic characters, and then there are iconic roles.
Yeah.
Okay, so an iconic character is, Hamlet. Now, whatever your Hamlet is that Laurence Olivier? Is that Mel Gibson? Is that, Benedict Cumberbatch was a recent Hamlet. Jude Law has been Hamlet.
Right.
So these are iconic characters. Then there's an iconic role. Yes, other people have played Colonel Jessup. People will always remember Colonel Jessup as Jack Nicholson. That's the one they're going to remember. That was an iconic role. So, just like Little Women, every generation has its own, same with Hamlet. Every generation has its own Hamlet. And so these are iconic characters, and I think The Little Mermaid has definitely throughout the years been one of those. Shirley Temple played The Little Mermaid. Pam Dauber played The Little Mermaid. There are so many people who have played that role, so it's an iconic character, not an iconic role. So that is something that is an opportunity, like many Shakespeare characters. I think we've discussed it on here before, that it wasn't until the second half of the 20th century that a black man even played Othello. It was always played by a white man in blackface. And that's an important part where, yes, a part of that is the race is important because that's a part of the story. Along with Hairspray, white communities putting on Hairspray, but they don't have black actors portray like Motormouth Maybelle and all these characters, so they have white people play them. They shouldn't be putting on those plays because that's important. The race is important to those. Do another musical. Do any musical that you want to, but there's some things that you do need to cast them properly. So, yeah, The Little Mermaid. In 20 years, we're going to get another Little Mermaid. And it could be live action, it could be CGI, it could be anything. I think there's even been horror movies about The Little Mermaid where she was trapped in a sideshow. Is that You think from a few years ago? I'm going to look
Yeah,
that.
I'm not familiar with that, but but it's possible.
Yeah, so this isn't, in this particular one, that's not what's, you're right, that's not what's important. People are going to get their chance to play this role. It's iconic. It's Gypsy Rose Lee. It's Hamlet. It's Oedipus. It's Antigone. It's going to keep going.
Oh, yeah. And again, I wasn't in the casting room. I don't know anybody who works in Disney. So I can't say that they had no intention of making sure they wanted to cast a black actor in the role of the Little Mermaid. They may have gone into it saying, we want to do that. But even if they did, I don't think that anyone could possibly say that if it wasn't for the fact that she was black, that Halle Bailey would have never gotten that role. She is perfect for that role.
Mm-hmm. It's her voice. It's her looks.
She's perfect. She has the voice to sing those really difficult songs. And even if it was Disney's intention of saying, we're going to cast a black actor in this role, that's not the only reason she was cast. And to be honest, like I said, I can't say it for sure, but I don't feel like this was any kind of token casting. My belief is that they wanted the best actor for that role, and I think Halle Bailey is it. I think it's going to do extremely well. Now, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping because there have been some things that I've wanted to bring up on the podcast, and I'm constantly forgetting to do this. And I'm like, today is the day.
We need notes.
Today is the day. I'm not going to forget this. I'm going to bring them up. Now, some of this is old news, obviously, but by God, I want to bring this up.
Okay.
First of all, Chadwick Boseman won an Emmy. Did you know about this?
I didn't. No, was it for What If? Or
Yes, it was for What If. He won an Emmy for doing the voice work for Star-Lord, yes. And that was a couple of weeks ago, and I've been meaning to bring that up, and I keep forgetting, and I'm like, he deserves his laurels for this, and I'm gonna bring it up. So I didn't know if you had heard that or not.
I hadn't, no.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, I didn't know if I wanted to bring it up on the podcast or while we were talking or whatever, but I know you like some horror movies, and I know that one of your favorite movies is Trick or Treat. How can you like a horror movie that never appeared in a theater? It's like, it's only on television. It's like real horror movies appear in theaters. How can you like that? Well, they're fixing that. It's going to appear in theaters this Halloween.
Oh.
So you will now finally be able to get to see it.
Almost 20 years later. Yes.
So you will have your opportunity to see it on the big screen, and I wanted you to know that. So
I do. I love Trick or Treat. It's one of the best anthology movies, one of the best horror anthology movies that there are, and yeah, I do. I love it.
So we'll all get our chance to go to the theater and see it. But speaking of theaters, I do want to talk just a little bit about Warner Brothers. I know we've been chatting about this for a while, and now things are getting weirder.
More
if it's at all
weird?
possible.
Yeah. How is that possible?
So again, Warner Brothers has been canceling more projects, getting rid of more shows. They have canceled the DC Dome that they've done the last couple of years. They have said the reason they're doing this is because COVID is not a deal anymore. Conventions are back. And so having an online convention to announce their stuff isn't important. So they've basically, I think that's the end of that. We're not going to see that anymore.
Okay.
But there's been all of this talk that Zaslav, what he's doing is that he's making things more streamlined at Warner Brothers Discovery because his intention is to flip it. He's going to sell it. That's the rumor it's going on. The Hollywood Reporter said that is the ultimate plan. They are trimming things up just like you flipping a house. You clean it up. You fix things that need to be fixed. You don't put an awful lot of money into it. If you got to replace kitchen cabinets, you get some cheap ones in there that look decent. You just get everything nice and neat, and you flip it. And apparently the plan is they want to sell Warner Brothers Discovery to Comcast. And
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
the only thing I know about Comcast is video games. That's it. That's all I know. I have no idea what Comcast does.
They own NBC Universal.
Okay.
That would be combining Universal and Warner Brothers, very much like when Disney bought Fox.
Okay.
They can't really do it until 2024 because of when he bought Warner Brothers. Of course, you can't turn around and sell it to somebody else right away. And because of the contracts that they signed, they can't sell anything until 2024. But apparently, according to this article, that's their plan. They're going to tighten everything up, give it a spit polish, and then just turn around and sell it and get out from under it. And I'm of two minds when it comes to this, because on the one hand, having less studios is never a good thing. Obviously, we can look at Disney. We would not have gotten Deadpool if it had been a Disney product from the beginning, obviously. We just wouldn't have. And it's the fact that it was a Fox product and Fox put it out is the reason we have it and why we may get another one. Same thing with the Netflix and the Marvel shows. Even though we are getting a Daredevil show in Disney Plus with the same actors, it's obviously not going to be the same kind of Daredevil. And
Gonna polish some of the grit.
yeah, definitely. Even with the Netflix shows that they brought in, they've edited them a little bit. There has been some editing done. But so you wouldn't have gotten that. It's the same thing that happened in publishing when all the big publishing houses started buying each other out. Then you basically don't have as many studios putting stuff out. You don't have as much variety. And eventually things become more homogenized. And a lot of people are worried about that, and I can certainly understand that. Now, on the other hand, I wonder if this isn't going to start creating a vacuum that smaller studios can't take advantage of. I don't know if another Warner Brothers is going to give us a great variety of movies, if it exists. I think an A24 would. I think a lot of the really good movies that I've seen have come from smaller studios like A24. And perhaps that this consolidation, if it goes through, and there's no guarantee that it will, because we're getting to a point now where we're starting to see what might start to look more like monopolies, and the FCC may step in and go, okay, hold on a second, this is going too far at this point. There have been a lot of times where things have opened up and smaller studios have had the opportunity to contribute when movie theaters were defranchised in the early 50s and the 60s, and when in the 90s you had smaller studios like Miramax. Even though they had Disney money behind them, they were able to do interesting things. And maybe this opens up for A23 movies or another studio like that to come out and put out some stuff that's more interesting. One would hope that would be the case. There's no telling. So I guess we will find out.
Yeah.
But it could go either way. But I'm going to keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. It's going to take a while to find out, but we'll see what happens. So let's talk some She-Hulk.
Yeah.
We have to talk about this episode.
Oh, it's just when she says it right there is, yes, it's a self-contained wedding episode. And
Yeah. It's
just being honest with it. Yeah, it's inconvenient, but so are weddings. And and everything that she goes through, even though she's a She-Hulk, we've all been through that. We've all had to wear the dress that doesn't fit, and we've all had to do the line dancing. And I'll tell you, my favorite fight scenes before was Umbrella Academy set to Istanbul by They Might Be Giants.
Oh, yes.
But now that I've seen a fight done to the electric slide.
Oh, my God.
Because everyone has to do the electric slide at a wedding.
Yeah.
And there it was, and they did a fight scene. That was gorgeous.
I can see why there are some people who are like, oh, God, this show is so cringy. It's delicious cringe. That's what I like about this show. It is supposed to be cringe, and I'm enjoying the cringe.
Yes, absolutely. Again, I don't want to repeat myself, but it's so relatable. And like handing you, oh, you're on ironing duty. I've been there. I've been 2 hours before a wedding ironing all these dresses on low because they're satin. And and had to wear the ill-fitting outfit, and you have to carry the chairs, and yes, weddings, we all love weddings, and we love going to them, and we want there to be drama, just like there is. Yay, the wedding fight started, and who's in the bathroom with who, and we loved that so much. And but they are inconvenient. Weddings are inconvenient for everyone, but we love them.
Oh, yeah.
We love going to them, and we all secretly hope something happens. Something happens, and because who talks about the perfect wedding? Unless the ring bearer goes running up the aisle and throws the pillow, we're not going to be talking about that wedding 10 years later unless something good like that happens. So this is so relatable. Yeah,
we got our bridezilla, and we got the drama. And I felt so bad for Jen because it's the bridesmaids and the groomsmen get matched up, and Jen got matched up with the dog. with the dog. So yeah, it was funny, it was relatable, and of course at the end we're like, oh, things are starting to build up now. Because we only have 3 episodes left.
Yeah, we got that little tiny bit of someone's coming after her. They've got their new weapon. Oh, almost forgot about Mr. Immortal.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Wow.
What a B plot. That was brilliant. Is he real? Is he someone from the Marvel universe?
Yes.
Does he really just kill himself to get out of marriage?
I don't know if he actually has done that, but yeah.
Oh my
but yes, that's an actual
goodness.
character. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that was so good. Just throws himself out of a window so he doesn't have to listen to people.
It's like that's it. Yeet yourself out of a situation. There's you have fight or flight, and then you've got this
Suicide.
Yeah, there was a moment there where I was starting to think that Mallory Book was going to try to poach Nikki because they worked so well together.
They worked perfectly together.
They did, and I can see why Mallory might want to do that. Of course, Nikki, she's a ride or die, so I don't know how you'd be able to pull that off, but I'm like, I could see something in there. I really need this. I really need to have her as my paralegal, and that's going to be interesting if that develops into something. But yeah, again, I've really been enjoying the show. I know a lot of people have. I know some other people have had issues with it, but I look at it this way. You don't have to like everything that Marvel does. Even if you have a favorite band, you don't necessarily like every song that they do. So this is just maybe for somebody else. And that's fine.
The one where she's a superhero. She's the head of a law firm. She got promotions, but she doesn't have a boyfriend yet. Being an unattached, childless woman, almost 40, I get that look all the time, and it's like, oh, when you gonna get married? No, my life is great as it is, but people look at you with pity.
It's like, exactly. You get that whole thing. And it's like, well, I'd get married. I've always wanted to have on the top of my wedding cake a snowball straight from hell. And when I'm able to get that, then I will get married. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm an older gentleman who's never been married. I don't have any kids. And people ask, how did you happen to do that? And I always answer it the same way. I dodged more bullets than they did in the Matrix. So, yeah, it's extremely relatable because the stuff that she's going through, you understand it. And like I said, especially if you're female, you're like, yeah, I know about this. I went through this in my wedding. I went through this when I had to deal with a friend who turned into a bridezilla.
It's my day.
Yeah, it's my day.
It's my day.
You know, sometimes you have to get into a superhero fight. Every woman's had to deal with a superhero fight in the middle of a wedding.
They make the best weddings.
Absolutely. So yeah, it was amazing, and I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Yeah, I was still waiting for a mid-credit scene.
Yeah,
we still didn't get one. I'm getting upset.
Yeah, there's 2 of them we haven't gotten.
I want some more Madison and some more Wongers.
Yeah.
But I think the world is.
Yeah. So I guess basically King Hulk, I'm trying to figure out who King Hulk is. Because apparently with the scene at the end, the message about that everything's going according to plan was signed by somebody who called themselves King Hulk. That may be a comic book reference. World War Hulk, I know about that. But King Hulk, again, it sounds like somebody who's like, I want some powers. And the needle is much bigger on this new syringe. So I guess they're ready to try something. And we got 3 more episodes to see what happens. But of course, not this coming Sunday, but I think next Sunday, the 2nd of October, we're getting the new season of The Walking Dead. And on the same day, we're getting the pilot episode for Interview with a Vampire.
Yes.
So I know that AMC has in the past, when they're trying to develop a new show, that they'll put it with an established show. I don't know if Interview with a Vampire needs the writing.
And the good thing about Interview with the Vampire is we can still call it What the Dead.
We can
discuss it.
You know, What the Dead, followed by
What the Dead.
And I've been hearing a lot of reviews about it. People are saying it's amazing. They said that this is probably the best show based off of Anne Rice's work that we've ever seen. That it's incredible.
We've really only had like 2 things based off of Anne Rice.
Well,
Interview and Queen of the Damned. Have there been others?
There's been one other thing, and this is a deep cut. There was a sex comedy based off of her book.
Exit to Eden. Oh,
you remember that?
Yes,
now.
I do. Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, and Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, I do. Dana Delaney. I do. I completely remember. I remember this movie. I don't have any idea what it was about. I don't know the plot. I just remember this movie. That's all. I remember it existing. I don't know what it's about. I don't know what they were doing. I remember Rosie O'Donnell in fetish wear.
Yes, because it was an S&M island.
Yeah. I can remember it, but that's how little that movie stuck with me.
Well, the reason I remember this movie is because, and this was many years ago, but I had a friend who I was trying to talk him into going to see a movie. He wasn't really into movies. He goes, I just hate dealing with going to a movie theater. Oh, maybe I would go if Rosie O'Donnell was in an S&M movie. I would go to a movie theater. And literally like 2 months later, this movie came out. And I was like, you are not going to believe this. And he said, are you serious?
How did he not know?
Well, keep in mind, this was back in like the 90s. The internet wasn't a thing except for like nerds like me. And a lot of people weren't on the internet. They didn't have the internet in their pockets.
I mean, all you knew about her was Betty Rubble and her stand-up comedy. That's all she had at that time.
That was it, exactly. And so literally like two months after he made that comment, I said,
now you have to.
And I saw that in the theater because I had to. I absolutely had to.
That's one of those bingo cards things.
Yeah.
I bet you didn't have Eminem getting #1 on the Christian music charts as on your bingo card.
Yeah, but there you go.
But it happens, like Rosie O'Donnell doing an S&M movie.
Yeah,
there you go.
That, or of course, I think you know the story about Rock and Roll.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
Yes, I.
Yeah, that whole situation where me and Kevin, we were driving back from a trip and we were talking about this movie and he just remembered it from his youth and I remembered it.
Yes.
And I wonder whatever happened. Somebody needs to release this. And literally that Monday, I buy a copy of Fangoria and there's an ad for Rock and Roll. And I said, Kevin, you're not going to believe this. Look at this.
I love
holy cow.
And I love explaining that movie to people and having them not believe it. I was like, imagine a rock star / mad scientist played by Lou Reed, and they don't believe me. And it's, you got to see it. I love it. It's just so awful and great and like the best soundtrack, best musical cast ever, and I love it.
It's the best. But there's a bunch of great stuff that's coming out, and we'll definitely be checking that out soon.
We shall see.
And with that said, we come to the end of episode 165. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. For Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.